Dzień dobry, and good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome for our session today, which is titled Skills for Innovation, Regional and Industry Success. I'm very happy to be here today with you. My name is Larisa Panait, and I'm a policy advisor for skills at Eurochambres, and I will be the moderator for this session. So nice to meet you all. And for those who don't know or what is Eurochambres, well, this is the association representing European Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We represent around 1,700 local and regional chambers across 38 countries. So we work in the EU, but also outside the EU. And all these chambers, they represent over 20 million businesses, which all over they employ more than 120 million people. So maybe if you work for a company, maybe this company is part of a chamber and this chamber is our members. So actually we are more connected to each other than we already know. And well, yes, what we do with all this reach that we have, we work quite closely with the businesses, and we look, and we also work across sectors. And more than this, we work to support approaches to skills development from a business-driven side, but also from the multi-stakeholder approach. So we are trying to work with everyone and to also connect the business side with the education side, depending on the country. Across this, so why are we talking about skills today? Well, skills is a very important topic. And when we talk about the green and the digital transition, well, they're already affecting us quite a lot. We also talk about the demographic change, and maybe we don't know all, but we are working at people which are also aging, and we are an aging continent. And here the name is very important because we are aging by 20 million people yearly until 2040. So at some point, there will not be enough people to do the jobs, so this is obviously a problem. And apart from this, we also talk about the fast changing of education and also transition. And then also what we see is that there are a lot of action done at EU level and also at national level, but we really believe that a lot of progress is actually done at local and also the regional level. And this is also done by people, which are here in the room, by projects, and also by partnerships. Well, this session actually highlights exactly these topics, and we are going to talk about various skills stories. From upskilling and reskilling initiatives, we are going to talk about some projects with EU funding, and we are also going to talk about chamber-led actions. But before that, maybe let me briefly introduce our speakers here. We have Csaba, here, Borboly. He is a second vice chair of the SEDEC Commission at the European Union Committee of the Regions, and he's also vice president of the Harghita County Council in Romania. We have Birgit. She's a senior project manager and the human resources counselor at Eurochambres. And back there we have Thomas Wimmesberger. I asked him how I can pronounce his name because it's a bit difficult. So I hope I did it well. He's a director for EU education and employment policy at the German Chamber of Industry and also Commerce. And here's how the session will run. We will have two short sessions of interventions by the panelists, quite short, so keep in mind the time. And then we will have a live Q&A, so think of questions that you have or comments. And also at the end, we'll invite you to share a good practice that you have in your organization or maybe you heard in your region, so then you can share it with the others. And then we can see how it goes. So think about it until the end of the session. But before diving in, maybe it's also very good for us to get to know you, because you already know us, but we don't know you. So maybe we can start the slide though. You can take your phones. You can scan soon the code. And we will invite you to choose and to tell us what kind of organization you represent. And if you have double hats or more hats, you can choose the one with which you, I don't know, feel the most represented with, or you are working the most with. Maybe we can also do it. I will also do it. And I think it will also be good if we can put on the screen the results. Okay, let's see if it's working also on the screen to present it. It's here. No, it's not working for the Slido to appear with the results. No, it doesn't work. Okay, no issue. Then we will improvise here. It's not an issue. We are going to ask you who is from a company, and maybe you can raise your hand, and then we see who is representing a company. So we have one person. Perfect. Who is... Okay. Who is representing a trade association? None. Okay, a vet provider or an education provider or university? No. Okay, a public authority? Okay. EU institutions or bodies? Okay, we have some people in the back. Perfect. Any other one that I haven't mentioned? Other associations or organizations? Perfect. We have one person in the back. Then we know each other a little better now. And now we are going to dive in the conversation already then. Csaba, I will start with you. And my question for you is that, I mean, you hold several positions with a regional focus, right? You are a member of the EU Committee of the Regions. You're also part of the Harghita County Council in Romania, also representing a minority of Hungarians in Romania. And my question for you is, what is the role, or what role do local and also regional authorities play in implementing skills initiatives? Can you maybe share an example with us, please?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And Harghita County is in the middle in Romania. So as a rural region, mountainous area, many people live in small villages, and majority of population is Hungarian in middle one of the Romania. We have many problems. Young people leave the region. Many jobs stay empty. Schools don't always prepare students for real work. So this is the main problems. That's why we focus on skills. We choose to focus on skills. And I believe local and regional authorities are a key role in these parts. Why? Because we are close to the people and we are close to the businesses, entrepreneurs, SMEs. So we are near to the schools, so we are directly with the young people. And for example, in Harghita County we build a dual education system when we saw these problems, and this means that students learn in school and get real work experience in companies. For example, in agriculture, mechanics, or food production, the companies help to shape the school programs, and students are more ready for real jobs. Second, we work hard on digital access, because we are a rural areas and we have many small villages. We didn't have highways or big infrastructure. This in rural areas, many students don't have internet and computers, so we build connectivity. We use local data to understand who needs help, and we train teachers. Started at the COVID period, because online tools are not useful. Teachers cannot use them well. Third, we work with many partners. We bring together schools, companies, youth organizations, and local chambers. This cooperation helps us build strong local system for upskilling and reskilling. At the EU level, in the Committee of the Regions, I asked for three things. Stronger focus on the regional level in EU skills policy, support for centers of vocational excellence in poorer areas, investment in lifelong learning with local needs in mind. Finally, we always include young people in the planning. They are not just learners, they are also our partners. We ask them what they need. We try to build solution together. In short, in Europe wants strong skills, it needs strong regions. And local authorities are not just helping, we are leading the way because we are there together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I heard two buzzwords which are very much important, and I like them. And I think it makes a perfect bridge to go to Birgit, because you mentioned the Centers of Vocational Excellence, and then you also mentioned cooperation among different partners. And this is what Birgit is doing. So you represent the ULEP project, right? Which is a Center of Vocational Excellence, which is a project funded by the EU. And the project promotes the usage of continuous vocational education and training, CVETs, to foster lifelong learning. You also mentioned it before, Csaba, and also to help companies to stay competitive. And you particularly focus on areas like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and also social innovation. I'm curious now, how are you achieving this in practice? Because it sounds very fancy, and when we hear all these buzzwords, it's good, but how does it work in practice, Birgit?
Well, yes, I think I have 4 minutes. I could speak for a full day about it, but okay, let's try and be short and be concise. I mean, actually, Csaba, you already said 2 buzzwords, multi-stakeholder approach and also involve companies in the learning process, involve companies in shaping curricula and to prepare people to have the skills that they need actually for the working market. And this is actually what we want to do and what we are doing in our project. We are bringing companies into play. We have surveyed them, asked about their skills needs, and then have gathered the input in common learning outcomes, which have led to the development of training materials. And this year, throughout the summer and early fall, we are actually going to roll out this training with companies again in the 8 participating countries. And then also when you speak about the multi-stakeholder approach, we have another aspect of the project that deals with bringing all of these stakeholders together regularly to discuss about vocational education and training and also to promote it. I mean, at European level, also at national level, you have a big division between initial vocational education and training and continuous vocational education and training. For the initial one, you have the official schools, you have set curricula. The continuous one is more flexible and less defined in most of the European countries. So we have decided continuous vocational education and training is something that is accessible to any person of any age. And so, as we have this lifelong learning agenda at European level, this is something that we need to deal with.
Okay, thank you very much then, Birgit. And I think it's also very good to think about all the training that we prepare and all the work that we do together with companies. And again, another perfect bridge to go to Thomas over there. Because when we talk about cooperation with businesses, sometimes when we talk about and when we look at the EU level, we see a lot of decisions making, right, made. But then who knows the real needs of these businesses? And I think, of course, chambers are very close related and they know a lot of what the businesses need from this side, especially when we talk about small and medium enterprises who also are facing quite a lot of changes, as we explained in the beginning of the session. And Thomas, as I said before, you know all the needs, or we hope that you know most of the needs of these businesses, right? And then they're also navigating big transitions, all these challenges that they face because of digital transition, also the green transition, and everything else that we mentioned before. Can you maybe let us know about a concrete example on how you are working and to support these SMEs or people individually?
Yeah, sure. I brought an example which shows very well how our chambers, I think, kind of know things ahead of studies. We had a very interesting project where some chambers in the region of Baden-Württemberg, so classical industrial region, a lot of automotive sector, but also SMEs along the value chain, they noticed that there's a growing need for AI and machine learning. Mm-hmm. Now in 2025, you will say, okay, late to the party, but they already started a project on that in 2020, which was, I think, before the big AI hype. And how did they do that? So they had this initial feeling, and then they decided to make a structured project out of it. So 3 chambers worked together with 3 universities, and they did interviews with companies, with wet schools, with trainers, also with trade unions to find out what the exact needs were, and then they designed a training program. And it covers both. So Birgit already explained the terminology, thankfully. So we have something for the initial wet sector, mm-hmm. So, which covers most of the AI basics. So you do your regular dual apprenticeships in a company and at wet schools, and then you can do a top-up course of 100 hours on AI, because we don't only need like IT guys to be good with AI. We just need people who have the normal education and know things about AI. This was quite successful. We also have large companies such as Mercedes, Porsche coming in and also sending their people, which is a good sign in general because they decide to rely on us instead of creating their own programs. And then we also saw that this was not enough. So we also had something for what Birgit already explained, the continuous vocational education and training sector. There we have one course that's on the so-called EQF level 5. What's the EQF level 5, you will ask yourself? So we've got like a structured framework on a European level how to define education levels, and EQF level 5 is like between your A levels and the bachelor, so the first academic cycle. But it's not only academic, it can also be on a wet degree, and that's where we designed it. This is mostly like this is quite extensive already. It's about 400 to 500 hours, and then you are like your job is to be like the link, the bridge between the IT department and your own department where you're still in. But when it comes to AI implementation, you bridge a bit the gap. And then we saw also the need for a third level, which is on EQF level 6. So it's also called a bachelor professional in Germany. And which is more like the management level. So you learn on one side leadership, but also like, implementation of AI project in the company you're working with. So the response was quite good from employees, but also from companies. And it was also a really interesting learning experience how like universities work together with us as wet providers, because back then we usually when we offer wet programs, we already have the know-how in our wet schools or in our companies. In 2020, we did not have the know-how on AI, so we needed to get this from universities. But at the same time, the universities needed information on what are the practical needs in the companies, because of course an academic discussion about AI is not what most companies need. So this was quite positive, and the interesting thing is when one chamber, or in that case 3 chambers, they developed this program, they offered it in their region, and it was quite successful. And so that's where we come in as the German chamber, and together with them we are trying to standardize this, like mostly sticking to what they developed, and we want to roll it out all over Germany.
So you are using a pilot project in a way that you developed in a specific local or regional area. You see if it works, and if it works, you can also scale it up.
Yeah, and I think it's a very, it's skills for innovation in the sense like, you have got an innovative approach, and sometimes it doesn't work out, and it's also fine. So maybe you do it in one region. Maybe it's only for this region, then you don't need to scale it up. Maybe it doesn't work in the region, it's fine, we've got 79 chambers, then one chamber did something that didn't work out, okay. But then you have cases like this where you can really use the experience and scale it up all over the country, and then it is a huge benefit for all of
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this, and I think it's also very good what you said about the cooperation between universities and also companies and also vet providers. Because sometimes, you are also from different organizations, right? So you have your own part of the story, and sometimes we found ourselves in discussions where we are right, but the others are not right. So I think this is a very good example of bringing people together from different contexts and finding solutions from the challenges that we have. And if these solutions are working, we can also scale them up. Okay, thanks, Thomas. Then I will go further to Csaba then. So you talked about all these examples that you are doing at regional level, right? But I'm curious that you are also working in the Committee of the Regions, and there you are also working on different reports or opinions. I'm just curious what kind of good practices you heard about from all these regions in the EU working on these reports or the opinions in the Committee of the Regions. So please share with us a few examples if you have, please.
Yes. When we see the Eurostat data, we see the differences not only between the states, we see differences between the regions. So when we talk about, for example, the skills and the talent development, we see many differences. And to reduce these territorial gaps, we need to change how we support talent, not just through schools or training, but with a more complete long-term approach. For example, in the Committee of the Regions, local authorities must become not only talent manager, needs to become talent managers, not only the project managers in this field. For example, in my country, we have it Interreg Danube Talent Magnet project. Based on this, we created a talent management action plan with our partners. And in this talent management action plan, we include housing, healthcare, digital access, support for young entrepreneurs, and community life. Because talent cannot grow in isolation, it needs a full ecosystem to feel supported. Second, we must listen to young people and involve them in planning. We work together with schools, employers, NGOs, and youth groups. This helps us design career paths that are realistic and motivating. And we support mentorships program all over Europe. In Committee of the Regions, we also have mentorship programs where experienced people help guide the younger generation. We have called for stronger multi-level cooperation so that local voices shape national and EU-level skills target strategies. This also means the regions must have faster access to EU funding, especially when young people are leaving rural areas quickly. The other way is the digital access is essential. In many rural or poor areas, lack of internet and computers block learning. That's why we want the EU to try broadband internet like a basic utility, just like water or electricity. And we support the idea of European Digital Innovation Hub that are open to every region, not just the big cities. Finally, success is not just about skill, it's about belonging. We have learned that young people stay or return to region it. They feel respected, their dreams are taken seriously, and they feel part of something meaningful. So yes, skills training is important, but what really makes the difference is building trust between young people and their home region. So it is something we grow together.
I think this is very good, and I think it's always good for us to hear when institutions or EU bodies in general, I would say, also take in consideration the opinion to the younger generation, because in the end, they are our direct beneficiaries, right? So we have to have them at the table, discuss with them, and then build together from this one. And maybe apart from this one, another interesting idea that you mentioned, it was this regional disparities that you found in your reports, right, and in your opinions, that not only from one country to another, it's quite different the situation, but even between the regions. Thank you for this, Csaba. But talking about different disparities between regions and countries, Birgit, you work also in this EU Lab project with several countries, right? Transnational cooperation in VET is often quite difficult. It's complex, and of course, in practice, I think it comes with many, many challenges. We have different systems, we have different priorities, we have even different regional needs. Thomas was telling us about, what works maybe in a region or a local area might not work in others, or maybe we don't have these needs somewhere else. In the ULEP project, you develop, as you said before, several training paths across all these 8 countries. But how does this work in practice? How did you manage to align the content with the national context and also with the company needs in the same time? And reminder to keep it brief.
Yes, this is a question about how to square the circle. As I said earlier, we involve companies from the 8 participating countries in our initial skills assessment. And then we brought all of these different needs onto one common denominator, meaning that we developed one set of criteria, one set of learning outcomes that would be applicable across all 8 countries. And based on that, we then developed the whole training materials, training curricula, the training path. Now, we tested these training materials with different groups. First, a reduced group at European level. We brought 24 trainers from those 8 countries, so 3 per country, into a European Learning Academy where they tested and evaluated the training materials we developed. They gave their opinion, and then with the same training materials, we reached out to the 8 countries and we had a major pilot phase. We were aiming to have something like 240 people taking part in this training phase. In the end, we had over 400 subscribers on our e-learning platform because we do everything on a dedicated e-learning platform. And so we got loads of feedback of what they liked, what they would not like, and what they think could be improved for those training materials. And that's when we started with a general adaptation phase to incorporate first their comments. So again, to have a standardized set for the 8 countries. And then before we actually are reaching out to companies in the 8 countries, we have a further refinement phase whereby the partners from each country sit together and say, okay, what is most suitable to our companies? And for that, some of them are again starting inquiries with companies, or some of them are simply referring to the results of the very initial skills assessment. And there they have the possibility really to go into the national and even the regional level for adapting it to the concrete business's needs. Which means that we'll have, in the end, one standard set of training materials on the e-learning platform and 8 country versions that are also not normally being translated into the country languages, because let's not forget, we are in Europe, all of us today here speak English, but when you go to businesses, when you speak to people working in businesses, most of the time you need to speak to them in the national language. And even for subjects like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, or social innovation, it's better to bring the message across in the national language, because we are not training AI specialists or VR specialists in our project, because one of the most interesting facts that we found out in the beginning was that most of the companies that we surveyed, which are small and medium-sized enterprises, do not use AI nor VR. I mean, this survey now dates back 2.5 years, but still I do not believe that the situation has changed so much. We had a maximum of 20% of our respondents at that time, and we surveyed over 700 companies then that were using AI or VR one way or the other. Not even coding, but knowing or having some kind of AR or VR application running in the business and that they were using for managing the business or for production process or something like this. So, which led us to believe, okay, there's loads of work to do in those fields, but really field work from scratch to tell people, okay, first of all, telling businesses what can you use these technologies for, and then how can you use them and how will you use them in your company. So, just to conclude on your question, okay, how do we deal with the 8 countries? We have a set of standardized training materials, and then we will have 8 country versions, because of course, even though we have developed all of our training materials in line with the European Qualifications Framework criteria, each European country uses the EQF as a basis line, as a basic line, but they have been very inventful in modifying certain criteria or adding criteria to it, which means that with what we produced in the project, our partners will have to go out to the national authorities, the education authorities, and get them to look into it, and so that we can hopefully get the approval at some stage.
Thank you, Birgit. I think it's also very interesting to think about what actually the role of the chamber is, because sometimes we have several SMEs, right? But SMEs, sometimes they don't have the capacity to find resources, to create curricula or to create training and so on. And I think chambers can come, bring together several SMEs, think of what are their needs, build together a training path, as you said, and then we have this one that they can use, and then we can offer to them. So I think here we really bridge, what are the needs and also what we can provide from all the other partners, which, as also Thomas mentioned before, we work closely also with the vet providers and the universities. So I think this is also the beauty, because we really can help the SMEs to go further with the training sessions. And as you said, they are not really using as much AI or VR or social innovation and so on. So thank you, Birgit. Going to Thomas for the last intervention. You mentioned before that you have these 79 local chambers across Germany, right? And your network, I think it has a unique capacity to respond to all these regional labor market needs. You mentioned that there are different ones, or maybe even similar ones, depending on the regions. How do these chambers work together, if they work together, and how they address these upskilling and reskilling challenges or needs, let's say? Maybe can you share an example of this coordination and how it works in practice, please?
Yeah, I think the other persons on the panel already showed a bit like what are the options. Like you have, okay, you can say there are lots of regional disparities. We have to adapt a lot, or do we stick to common standards and maybe tweak them a bit? So for us, in most cases, as we are very regionalized organization, most things happen on a regional level. And as you said, often they just do it on a regional level and there's no real need to cooperate and they do their thing. But in some points, we come in as the German chamber, as the umbrella organization. This is in the initial vocational education, in the initial vocational education and training sector. For apprenticeships, we have exams that have to have a standard on a federal level, because for us it's very important, for our companies it's important that they know what they get. So if they hire an electrician, they need to have the same standards, be it in Bavaria or in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern in the north. So that's very important, and that's where we come in, and we try to keep the standards high, and also like give answers to questions that come up. For example, we recently had the question, okay, is it okay to use ChatGPT in project documentations or not? And you can't just give one answer to one side, to one learner and another one to another, simply because he is doing it or they are doing it in another chamber. So we came together and then agreed, okay, we will allow it. So we have a common interpretation on that.
So you allowed for them to use ChatGPT for this?
Yeah,
okay.
And it was also very technical. It has to do with IT, and the main argument was, okay, of course you use it, but because if you're doing an apprenticeship in IT now and you're not using AI, you're probably doing something wrong. So yeah, but the important thing in that case was, okay, we need standards that are the same. In continuous vocational education and training, so once you have finished your initial degree, as Birgit already said, it's a bit more. There are a bit less rules, and in general, the chambers are far more flexible to offer whatever they want. And the thing is, whatever they offer, it has to be financially viable. So if they don't find anybody who wants to do that, probably there's no need. But there's, of course, sometimes the case where you have like, okay, you offer a course, you need 10 persons for it to be financially viable, and you end up having 5. And this is quite frustrating because there is some need, but maybe not enough. And this happens a lot, especially in smaller chambers. And we recently started a project where we just collect the data of all the courses that don't take place because they don't reach the minimum threshold. And then we, my colleagues in Berlin, they try to group them up and offer the same course online. So with the same trainers, the same lecturers who would usually do the course offline somewhere in a chamber, they do it online for the whole of Germany. And this is quite an important project just to close the gaps, because even if you only have 5 people in a region that want to do it, the companies also need those 5 people, and you just and we cannot afford to lose any. We cannot afford to not close these skill gaps, and yeah, that's why it's a small project, but also a very important one for us.
Okay, thank you for sharing this. And just because you mentioned data before, we also have Eurochambres economic survey, and we run it. And for example, from the latest results, we found out about that businesses, one of their priorities for this year actually looks at skill shortages and also labor costs. So I think it's very good what you said, that, okay, even though that you have people and they are interested in several training courses, even if maybe there are not enough to organize them in person, they can also do it online if they work together. But this wouldn't be possible if they only, I don't know, stay there in their own lane and don't look to the left or to the right. So thank you for this. I think we can stop here for now. Maybe just to say again that we talked about EU-funded projects, this Center of Vocational Excellence, the EU Lab. We also heard on regional cooperation and several examples of how they work, for example, to offer AI in apprenticeships. We also learned about how we should involve young people at the table to have them there, but also about the regional territories and the disparities that we have within these regions, locals, and also between the countries. Now we turn to you, and we'll ask you if you have questions for our panelists. And I think you can just raise your hand if you have a question, and then we can move the microphone across. I see a question there. I don't know if there is someone who can... Okay, perfect. Maybe you can also say your name, what you represent, and the question.
Hi.
Shortly, please.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. My name's Ben. I'm from the European Trade Union Confederation. And this is for maybe everyone. How do you ensure that there are jobs there for the workers that you're training them in afterwards? You know, I think we see a problem often of workers doing upskilling and reskilling in green fields, net zero fields, and then the jobs don't really materialize often. How do you ensure that the supply matches the demand?
Thank you. Maybe let's take all the questions and then we can have them. So maybe you can put your question down. Okay. Any other questions from the room? Okay, I don't see any for... I see one there, please.
Ignacio I have dual role in a company and also at the university. So thanks a lot for the insight. I was just wondering, you mentioned in the chamber that some large companies come, like Volkswagen, etc. I assume the majority of the companies are from SMEs, but I don't know if you target specific courses for that large majority of companies with perhaps smaller employees versus then the rest. And also if you cooperate with other type of local or regional agencies. For example, in Barcelona, where I come from, there is the local agency to promote economic development. They do these sort of capsules, appeals for employment based on the observatory and the trends they have analyzed. So it's kind of a work they do.
Thank you. Any other question? I don't see any. Okay. Thomas, do you want to take... Okay.
Yeah, and maybe just start because you mentioned what I said in my intervention. So I wanted to more like to say it. So we in general, we are open for all companies. We, like all companies, are by law members of our local chambers. So we, all, of course, want to offer all courses to everyone. It's mostly SMEs who do that. I just wanted to say in that sense that Porsche or Mercedes would have the capacities to do it themselves if they needed to, but as a quality sign, we could see, okay, they're still coming to us. This is good. A small SME, unfortunately, wouldn't have the capacity in many cases to offer the training courses themselves or to develop them themselves. So, but it's usually open for everyone, and the more the merrier. And maybe on the second, on the first question, actually, how we make sure that the supply meets the demand. The good thing is, so we have a dual education and training system in Germany. So it's very demand driven. So learners spend about 80% of the time at their workplace, and companies choose who they will train. So if a company trains somebody, it's because they need somebody in that field, and they will need them once they are finished. So this is kind of it's not a supply-driven labor market there. It's a demand-driven, and so we also see it as a very good way to avoid skills mismatches in general.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Birgit, do you want? Please, go for it.
Yes, I can maybe revert on the first question about will there be jobs there for the people that are trained. We are also working with a demand-driven approach, whereby we are presenting the trainings that we developed based on company skills assessments. That means that they know that they have those skills needs, and asking them if they are interested in sending their employees to our training because they want to advance in the digital era. And I mean, as you said within the chamber, you had this discussion, do we allow for ChatGTP? In companies, it's the same, it's even more because AI or VR applications, depending on where they are used, are taking over, are taking a bigger space. And then there's even a European, let's say, it's not a regulation, from the AI Act, which says that companies need to train. It's the AI Act, it's an act, yeah. Yes, it's the AI Act that says, and this is valid since February this year, that all companies need to train their employees so that they know how to use AI. And so, I mean, maybe we are lucky with our project to be just ready with our training materials now, but we think that we can make a very nice bridge in this regard and offer companies something useful. And so we do not think that we offer something that is not going to be wanted or needed in the market, because we have done on purpose to choose subjects which we believe are future-oriented and have a potential for taking a big role in companies' lives.
Thank you, Birgit. Csaba, do you want to add something?
Yes. In view of the...
Let's put it a bit closer, I think.
Okay. The Committee of the Regions, we see and we try to underline the importance of multi-level governance because I think in this area where the changes is faster in each day, we need to have strong local views. So and not in national level, need to have more Europe in the local and regional level, because in these fields, in many times the cross-border cooperation, the cooperation between the regions, for example, the mountainous regions with the mountainous regions in Europe, we need to have financing tools, and we need to have many possibilities to resolve quickly the questions. So I think this is one of the future. Union of Skills was published by the Commission in May. So we need to see what will happen, but I think one of the solutions is more Europe in the local and regional level.
Okay, thank you. Maybe just to build on what you said about the Union of Skills, mostly, maybe you heard, maybe you haven't, but the Commission launched this communication on the Union of Skills in March. And then they have several actions that they want to do on different strands, on upskilling, on reskilling, on building on foundations, like basic skills or STEM skills, but also working a lot on collaboration and public-private partnerships, for example. And within this Union of Skills, they also have this governance that they are looking at, where they want to have high-level board, and they want for this board to receive data from an observatory. And even for what we advocate as Eurochambres and also with our networks, is that, okay, for this observatory, for example, it's very good that we look into the data from SEDEC, from Eurostat, and from all these institutions, but more than that, we also have to work closely with the businesses, also with the chambers at local and regional level. So in this way, we also have real-time data, and I hope this answers your replies, your question. And based on this, of course, the information can fit into this high-level board, and then they can also come with recommendations for this council recommendation on human capital. And maybe another very good example, we have another one of our members, they're also doing monitoring of skills. So they have this skills intelligence tool in Italy, Excelsior, and they also look into data. So what kind of skills do these businesses need in the future? What kind of jobs will there be? And based on this, they also provide several training. Also linked again to the digital side, because they also see a lot of need in the digital side. So just to add a bit
and
on the example.
Recognition of the trainings, recognition.
Recognition of training is also another topic, but maybe for another time and for another panel, because we are running out of time. But I think now it's your time to shine, let's say. And if you have a very good practice that you like to share with our speakers, or also with the other ones in the audience, please feel free to. It can be one of your organization or in your local or regional area. So is there any good practice that you'd like to share? You can raise your hand. Okay, maybe not. I think, okay, maybe it's time. Oh, perfect. Go for it. There is a question right behind you.
It's sort of what I said. So in Barcelona, there is this local agency. It's sort of owned, supported by the city council. What they do is they have an observatory. They study some trends that they anticipate that can be disruptive of several sectors, for example, 3D printing or AI. They do some studies, and based on the potential that this could disrupt as short, mid, and long term, certain sectors like automotive, health, etc., then they create certain online pills or capsules to support employees or even citizens that are interested in upskilling or reskilling towards that. So that's a bit kind of the closest that it's kind of known in Barcelona. So it's quite popular, actually.
Thank you for sharing that. Then you can also share your idea with the Commission because they are looking into good practices. So feel free to send this good practice to them. Maybe just to say one more thing related to your question of working with different organizations at local level. I mean, obviously, the chambers work very closely with the business side, but also with vet providers or education providers in general, let's say, or even with the university. And in some other countries, or depending also on the needs, for example, when they work on projects for migrants, they also work with public employment services. So I think this is a very good collaboration where they come together and discuss what is needed and what they can do further. And I think there are very good examples. And maybe going upper than that, let's say, we also at Eurochambres we basically do lobby and we discuss with the Commission, the Parliament, and other institutions and body about the needs of the businesses and, of course, of the chambers. And we try to have a dialogue on how we can improve the skills needs, as we mentioned before, the skills gaps, the mismatch, and so on. So we try to communicate with all the actors at all levels, with all different kinds of people. Birgit, please.
Yes, I wanted to add on that, Larisa, just by also giving the example of what we're doing in ULab, because we want to bring businesses, the vet providers, and also the innovation providers closer together. So all of our project partners have reached out and they have concluded local or regional agreements with their European digital innovation hubs, meaning that they will jointly promote vocational education and training in the regions and also concretely take part in the different ULab activities that we are going to organize in the coming months. And normally these collaborations are set to go beyond the project duration, because we really have asked the partners to look into, okay, what makes it interesting for you and what makes it also, let's say, yes, worthwhile for you to continue this collaboration afterwards. Because we don't want this to be a one-off whereby we bring them together now and in 2 years' time they say ciao, goodbye, it's not worthwhile it anymore.
I think actually this is a very big important topic, how we talk about sustainability, even with different EU-funded projects, right? We receive the funding, we have it for a few years, but then what's happening after this? And I think if we build on these good partnerships and we keep up the good work in different countries with different stakeholders, this partnership can continue. But okay, thank you, Birgit. Thomas, did you want to mention?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on what was said, and we were quite practical, like in this hour, with the examples from the local level, regional, federal level, but also European level. And I think we also have to think about a bit about the political implications these examples have, because I am really convinced, and also my organization is convinced, that we can only solve these skill shortages we have through bottom-up approaches. And we have seen some positive signs in the Union of Skills that the Commission is also thinking, or more thinking towards that idea, because all those examples, they show, okay, you need really to see what is needed, be it from an employee side, be it from a company side, and then start working on that. You cannot just say, okay, we think AI is coming, we are just, okay, working on something here in Brussels or somewhere else. You really need to start, okay, from the employee perspective, from the company perspective, and then move on from them and start working on from there. And you can even lift it on the European level, as we just heard, but you need to start from the bottom.
So bottom-up approach from all levels, also in our actions, our activities during the daily life, but also with the institutions. And indeed, for the Union of Skills, I think the Commission is doing a good job right now in involving stakeholders and also us. So we are at the table and we also tell them, look, this is the real situation. And even now, for example, for the VET diploma, there is this discussion on having a VET diploma or label, European one. And they are organizing an activity where they bring all the stakeholders together and also look into this activity. And I think it's very good because also as chambers, we stay up to date what is happening and in a way not being reactive of, you know, they implement it, it will be there, so then we have to face it in quotes. But we are really at the table and we can also give our opinion and even examples actually, because in some countries of our chambers, the VET system is very, very strong. So they are at the table and they discuss and tell the Commission how is the reality actually. And I think this is another very good example. So we are going to keep up with the dialogue and also with the communication with the institutions and also among ourselves. And maybe to conclude, because I think I'm hearing a lot of glasses, so maybe everyone is prepared for drinks. Just to conclude, thank you for being here and listening to us, but also for sharing some of your thoughts and questions and also the good practice that you shared. And maybe some of these conclusions for me or key takeaways would be really to have a multi-stakeholder approach. So whenever we talk about anything actually, so not only even in the skills or education and training, but I heard before, you know, talking about simplification, about defense or the green side or digital side and so on. We have to bring different stakeholders at the table. Maybe the bottom-up approach is a very good one that we should have, and we should be involved from the co-designing, let's say, or even from the ideas from before to feed in to the policy. And from your side also that even though that we have differences or challenges, let's say, between the regions or even between the countries, it's good when we talk about them and then we try to find common solutions. And as Thomas said before, some of them might work and then we can scale them up. Otherwise, it's fine. Huh? We all mess it up from time to time and then we go further. This is life. But we take the good points and then we go further. So that's all from our side. If you are interested to talk afterwards, feel free to come. Otherwise, I'm sure the drinks are on the other side. So thank you very much. And applause for you. And thank you also for the technical team who stayed until very late today. So thank you for them. Dziękuję.